Yuka, will you be moderating and facilitating today?
Uh, uh, I wasn't asked, but I can do that, of course. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming this exciting presentation about Spain being a business hub. And thank you very much for Mary Cherry. She's Global Chamber Barcelona's member, and she's a lawyer and talking about taxes, legal, and how we can do business internationally from Spain, but internationally from other part of the world into Spain, from Spain to other part as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you very much, Yuka. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the session. As you guys said, I'm a lawyer. I'm a tax and corporate lawyer at Capital Auditors and Consultants, which is a firm based in Barcelona, Madrid. As Yuka has mentioned, I'm based in Barcelona, and I mainly work with international companies, international investors, which have some sort of interest in Spain that is expanding, securing investment. We do everything. We do from the legal support, tax planning, support with the ongoing obligations, and also we support them when they feel they are ready to internationalize into other markets. But today we are going to talk about just Spain, at least for now. As Yuka has said, Spain as a business hub, illegal and tax strategies to attract talent and investment. That's the title of the session. I'm gonna keep it very, very simple, very straightforward. Just going to discuss and outline to you, which are like the hot questions that I always being asked by clients, things that I see on my day-to-day, which are the challenges, which are some of the strategies that we advise to them, and which are like the key topics actually, okay, related to this. As an overview, okay, regarding Spain. So Spain, geographically speaking, it's a gateway to Europe. Traditionally, it was to companies in Latin America, north of Africa. Okay, with Latin America, it's something that has happened for many years. It's easy for international companies there to set up in Spain because of the language, similarities in culture, and they prefer to do it through Spain rather than other European countries normally. And also something that we are seeing is that we are receiving lots of interest from United States and Asia, for example, because again, they're seeing Spain as a gateway for the rest of Europe, for the rest of the European market. Why? Spain, it's a very stable economy. It's actually growing. And it has lots of industries. Some of them are traditional ones, other ones are innovative ones. Okay, for example, as traditional ones, we have real estate. Actually, I was last week at an event next to the Global Chamber, which was the district, which is organized here in Barcelona. It was about real estate investment. And something that was clear is that Spain is very much of interest for international investors seeking to invest into real estate in different sectors of real estate. So this is something that keeps growing still as a traditional industry here. And then we have cities, which is attracting innovative industries. For example, we have Barcelona, which is attracting life sciences and technology companies, Valencia with renewable energies, Madrid with technological companies, marketing companies, and so on and so forth. So it's a very interesting environment. As I've said, many companies, many investors choose Spain rather than other European countries because of the cost that it has compared to other Western European markets. Okay, labor costs and also having good infrastructure. It's something very important if you are looking towards investment and expansion into a market, of course. Second thing, this is access to qualified workforce. We have very talented people in Spain, very international minded in some cities, such as, for example, Barcelona, where there are lots of expats and many people, which is working for international companies. As I mentioned before, access to the European market. So if you're a company or an investor from a third country that we call, it's important to choose somewhere as a base of operations to operate for the rest of the European market and maybe to try the market. And if it's somewhere which is stable, which has competitive cost and which has good infrastructure and good economy, then I think Spain is a good option for you. So once we have this clear, we have understood that Spain might be a good option. We have to ask ourselves which is the best way to proceed, right? This is where my work comes, which is advising on the best way to proceed from a legal perspective, okay? This is very important because this is going to secure how good is going to go the project or not. Of course, the commercial side is important, but this is also very important. And it depends, the structure, on many different factors. It's important to evaluate, for example, which is the purpose that we have on the expansion, which are the mid-terms and long-term objectives of the company, which is the tax exposure that we want to have, the liability structure that we want to have. Do we need to relocate people from our parent company or from other companies within the group into the Spanish one or not? Okay, do we need to hire 100% locally? So this kind of question is something that we have to assess, and it's very important that you are advised by a professional in order to have the right structure for you, okay? Here I have outlined which are the most common forms if you're a company looking towards expanding in Spain. They have the subsidiary, which can be under the form of an SL or SA, limited liability company or public company, in other words. Depends on how big the project it is, on interests that you may have, as I said before, purpose, objectives that you have, and so on and so forth. Then we have the branch, something that I personally wouldn't recommend if it's not for very specific situations. I know that, and it's something that I see every day. Companies, when they want to expand, normally they think, first thing, let's set up a branch, right? It sounds easy. Well, it is. And from a liability perspective, cannot be that much interesting. So unless there's other reasons, such as commercial reasons, marketing reasons, so on and so forth, it's best to do a subsidiary, okay? And I didn't mention, but doing a subsidiary in Spain, it's very easy. You don't need a local shareholder, for example. It's recommended to have a local director, but it's something that normally accounting and law firms can provide. But regarding capital, it's not required. So it's relatively easy to do so. So I would always recommend to go with that option normally. And then we have the representative office, which is something very specific. If you are just starting to think about Spain, but isn't very clear because you want to do some market research before, then this is your figure, because this is something which is intended for that, just market research, just support activities, and you're not going to do any business activity as per yet. So it's also a very easy structure to set up. Also, if you are, I didn't mention here, if you are an individual investor, also recommended to sometimes structure your investments through a corporate structure because of taxes and because of liability. It allows us to protect yourself. And as I've said before, sometimes it's not a matter of just Spain. Sometimes it's important to take into account other jurisdictions. So something that we normally do if you are investing in Spain, sometimes it's interesting to set up a structure within other countries, depending on your place of residence, if the investment is in Spain, if there are other investments around, and something that is also important to assess at the beginning of the project. And then we have tax, which is, as it was mentioned before, favorite topic for everyone, but very important. It's equally important to the legal structure and something that normally everyone has in mind because it's money, right? As an overview, in Spain, the tax outlook is for individuals, you have the personal income tax and wealth tax, generally speaking, okay? Important, if you are going to relocate into Spain, it's very important to know where in Spain, okay? Because although personal income tax, it's nearly similar in every place, wealth tax, it's not. Okay, depending on the region of Spain and the wealth that you have, this is going to be crucial, okay? Because in Spain, you're going to declare all your income, all your worldwide income. And for example, in some parts of Spain, you pay wealth tax, and in other parts of Spain, you are exempt. So you can imagine, very important question, okay? If you are thinking about relocating here. If you're a company, generally speaking, the corporate income tax rate is 25% on the profits, okay? But can be reduced to 15% in some circumstances. For example, if it's a small company or if the company is into innovation or research, there are some tax incentives that can be applied. If you want to attract talent, you are setting up huge structure and it's important for you to attract executives or professionals from other parts of the world. We have something very interesting, which is the Beckham law. Okay, it's something very popular, I think, and very, very interesting. Basically, this regime was created to attract talent in Spain. So initially, it was only applied for highly qualified professionals that were being hired into Spanish companies, okay? But there was a recent reform that has opened this regime to entrepreneurs as well, to directors of companies, to executives. So it is more open now for more profiles. Basically, this regime what says is that you only, remember before, in Spain you declare all your income. Well, if you are under this regime, you only declare what you are generating in Spain. So the rest of your wealth, which is in other parts of the world, it's protected. It's not communicated to Spanish tax authorities or taxed here, okay? What you have here in Spain, the income that you have here in Spain, it's only taxed at a fixed rate of 24%. Okay, so compared to the progressive tax rate that we have as tax residents in Spain, I think it's a very interesting option to always consider and to see if you are eligible for it. And if you are, definitely apply for it, okay? And also, it is valid for 5 years since you apply. So it gives you definitely a lot of air as for someone that is relocated to Spain with your family, okay? Or by yourself. As I've said before, R&D and innovation incentives for companies. We also have the regime for participation exemption for holdings. So if you have a holding company, you have a group, okay, of companies within Spain, every dividend that you are distributing to this holding company abroad, for example, it's exempt if some requirements are met. So very interesting to consider as well. And as I was mentioning before, you are in the European Union, so it allows you to do some cross-border planning with EU directives, taking into account these regimes and different directives that we have. For example, something that we see normally, it's very interesting if you are a company from a third country, you are setting up in Spain. Something that you might not know is the European VAT, which makes everything very easy afterwards to submit tax and so on and so forth. So it definitely is something to take into account. So as you can see, important the legal structuring, but also important the tax strategy and to do an efficient tax planning on your investment to secure that you're not overpaying taxes and that you can be efficient. I know Spain is famous for being very strict, it's not sometimes that attractive or known for being attractive, but actually there are strategies and ways of being compliant, of course, but also being efficient. It's just that you need to be very careful with the planning, okay, and do it beforehand, and of course have an eye on that all the time that you are doing the operations. As a future outlook that we may have, Spain is evolving, okay? Spain is becoming every time more and more open-minded regarding business. It's becoming more international, okay? For example, a couple years ago, we had a startup law approved, which basically it's a law for startups, very interesting, which says that if you qualify as a startup, it's something that you have to apply for and meet some requirements. If you do so, you can benefit from a tax reduction. For example, your corporate income tax is reduced to 15% for 6 years, which is very good. You have also, they eliminate for you some administrative burdens for some processes within your company. For example, attracting investment from abroad, okay? It's very interesting. On that law, we also approved the digital nomad visa, very popular in Spain right now. It's something that we are seeing every day. And for example, something which is very popular to do is that you come to Spain as a freelancer with your digital nomad visa. You work for your international clients, for your company, which is set up abroad. In the meantime, you do some market research within Spain, within Europe. And when you can qualify for the permanent residency or nationality, which depending on your country of origin, it's sooner or later, then you have all the work done, all the planning that we were mentioning before in order to set up your structure here, right? So it's a good way to start your journey, I would say, towards Spain. And also, we are aligning every time more with the OECD and EU standards, which is very important because it makes us very transparent and secure for corporations and international investors that can feel that security that they are, as I said before, investing into a stable economy and a robust legal framework. Okay. Are there any questions or any comments until now from anyone?
Thank you very much, Mary Chad. Is there any questions? Because I'm in Spain, I don't think I can perceive well the advantage of being in Spain. I mean, I know that I'm okay being in Spain, but can you explain a little bit what's the difference between, for example, getting into the European market through France, through Germany, through Italy? What's the difference you see, advantages that you see by entering from Spain?
So this is something very common, and normally when a company is looking towards expanding into a new market, they do the research, right? And they have different markets into place, different jurisdictions. And we work very closely with colleagues, for example, in Germany, in Italy, and in France. And it's something that I see myself every day. The difference is from, I would say, mainly from a cost perspective. Of course, compared to Germany and France, Spain can be a little bit more efficient, okay? And also from a bureaucratic perspective. It's true that here we are very bureaucratic, but I'm seeing that in other countries as well, okay? And can be worse. And if you add to that the costs, which are higher, and you add to that maybe it's not that attractive for your executives to relocate to France, but it's more attractive to relocate to Barcelona, right? I mean, everything adds up to that. And Spain, as I've said before, is evolving towards a good position into that. Institutions, I think, have it very clear. There are, for example, many subsidies to attract international companies here on some industries. Some major corporations are setting up here, so they are creating whole environment around them, right? So I think it's a good opportunity. As I said before, it's a very developed Western European country with infrastructure, good economy, good industries, everything very developed. But at the same time, you have access to that sense of something new. So institutions are like very much conscious on attracting this. There are subsidies, and costs are not that high, as at least yet.
Thank you very much. And what kind of client do you deal with on a daily basis?
So we normally work with companies. Okay, we also have individual investors, especially my colleagues in the office in Madrid. They deal with a lot of real estate investors, for example, that are doing it at the moment as individuals. But of course, there's always a plan, as I've said before, to set up at some point a structure because it's much more efficient. I work mainly with companies from different industries. Marketing, consultancy, technological companies, infrastructure companies as well, and from different places of the world. Latin America is somewhere which was traditionally very important for us, for Spanish advisors, but we are seeing a lot of investment coming from Northern Europe as well, the United States and China. And I think this is changing all the time because depends also on the geopolitical situation in the world. And then it comes from one place or the other. It's something that we see every year that is changing. But currently, this is the tendency that we have.
Mhm. And talking about the international, let's say, political movement, it's people talk about new order, right? The new order. Do you think anything has been changed in your world? Like your clientele changed, or people are coming more to Europe, or not coming to Europe, or do you see any changes these days?
Definitely, yes. We were seeing lots of changes after COVID, for example. I think something better because we saw many people relocating here, and with relocation came opportunities because these people started to invest, to start some new projects in Spain. So that was a very important thing that, for example, happened. Nowadays, what we are seeing is that, as I said before, the country of origin of the clients that we have is shifting. We are receiving lots from the United States, which before wasn't that popular. We are receiving also lots of investment coming from Southeast Asia as well, which are taking advantage now, I think, of the geopolitical situation and are like growing very fast and expanding very fast. From Middle East as well, we are receiving lots of clients coming that are seeing opportunities to invest, and sometimes as a strategy for themselves as well, for commercial purposes, to set up into another country, let's say, and sometimes because of, for example, economic sanctions, makes sense to change your place of business to a European market,
Yeah.
for example, which is the case in with some clients.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, it's thank you very much for your presentation and your kind of status update for the new world that we are facing. Is there any questions or opinions that from the
Thank you very much for this update. And if you have any question, please let me know.
Yes, so
Done.
before we finish, I would like to give you some examples of cases that we have dealt with some clients. I think can be very practical as something for you to understand what we have just discussed, what we have been discussing with Yuka now. For example, we have here something that we saw here in Barcelona some time ago. It was a European fintech company. It was coming from Eastern Europe, okay? And they were looking towards expanding into Southern Europe. As you were mentioning before, Yuka, why they chose Spain, in this case, was for regulatory purposes. It was easier for them in terms of avoiding licensing, avoiding like specific legal compliance requirements. It was easier to do it in Spain because in Spain, depending on the type of fintech, you don't need a license at all. Part of course, setting up a company and so on and so forth, but makes it very easy for them. And again, they had to relocate some key professionals and executives. Spain was attractive, Barcelona was attractive, and they were able to benefit from the Beckham Law regime. So we set up their company here as a subsidiary. We did the Beckham Law regime for their professionals. From an immigration perspective, as they were Europeans, was quite easy. But it was a good strategy for them. Another case we had, which is actually very, very recent, that we had in Madrid in our office. It was a marketing agency from the US, okay, that they also wanted to relocate to the European Union because they were having clients around, they wanted to develop further here, and they chose Spain, okay, because again, from a cost perspective, made sense to them. But also, as again, it was a good place to set up a base of operations for the rest of Europe. They were worried about the administrative burden. As I've said before, we are known for being very bureaucratic, but if you do good planning and everything is very organized regarding timings with your advisor and so, shouldn't be a problem at all. They did set up the company. They implemented, for example, stock options for their employees because they wanted to retain talent because it was a project for them long term. And also something that we did is to relocate some of their executives into Spain, okay? In this case, they were not European, so from an immigration perspective, might seem a little bit more complicated. It wasn't, because in Spain we have something, for example, called the intercompany relocation visa, which if you're relocating within companies of the same group and with an objective, for example, this setting up operations into a new market, you're granted this visa. Also, we have the highly qualified visa. So if you are an executive, someone with higher education, and you are being hired by a Spanish company, you also qualify for that visa, and easy to get as well. And of course, they have the accommodation for themselves and for their families. So it was something very positive. And we helped them apply cross-border payroll and tax planning because they were again doing operations not only in Spain, but the rest of Europe. And it was very important for them to keep a track on everything, to be efficient, to keep a track, for example, the cash flow, and something that we helped them as well with the payroll, because they were having some professionals working, for example, in Italy, in Netherlands, developing market there. So we assisted them in being compliant and being able to meet as well their objectives. So I wanted to give you just these two examples, which I think they summarize what we have discussed now and can give you like a more practical overview on how to set up in Spain and do it in a way, which, as I've said before, the key things is to have good planning, okay, and ask yourself the questions that I mentioned before, which are the objectives, which is the plan, which is the project that we have long term. And if you do so with good planning, the strategies and the benefits are there.
Great. And what stage of the businesses you prefer to help? I mean, you talked about startups, you talked about investors, you talked about a little bit more bigger companies, right? What types of companies and what stage of the businesses is the best for you to help?
So it really depends on, as I said before, which is your objective. Okay, sometimes we see not that much developed companies or big companies, but they are having customers in Europe and they see the opportunity there, and maybe it's their opportunity to make the business bigger, right? So sometimes we see that it's not that much of a big company, which is really with an expansion plan in place, with a business project, you know, sometimes something that comes like that. You are starting to have 1-2 clients in Spain or Europe, okay, it's fine. Suddenly the following year, because of your marketing strategy or your commercial strategy, or just because people start referring your business, for example, that happens a lot with, as I've said before, with the marketing agencies, then suddenly you have lots of clients around here or many leads here.
A good problem.
Then to start doing so. I would recommend, for example, in this specific case, the moment that you see that you're starting to have clients and you really see the opportunity of growing that, to already start the process, because doing the correct planning and doing the correct way of the setup takes a little bit of time, of course, not something that you do from one to the other. So the moment that you see the opportunities there, don't wait until you have really the urgency and the need, because if not, it's going to be like a disaster for yourself and for your operations or your cash flow. Okay, so my recommendation is this one. Of course, bigger companies, they have their expansion plans, and it's a completely different world. When it's smaller companies or investors, I would recommend to just when you see the opportunity, already start getting advice.
Thank you. And there's a question in the chat from Frana from GC Durban. Are you available to ask questions?
Let me see.
Can you unmute? Or should I ask you?
I don't. Hi, everyone. I don't really have any specific questions, but I am quite interested in learning a little more so that we could possibly connect people and maybe ourselves to the programs that you have available. So it sounds quite interesting, and I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Definitely, I would be happy to do so. It's something that I very much enjoy. You can also to learn and to chat with colleagues from around the world. So definitely, let's connect and let's discuss on how we can see how it works for South African companies. I will reach out to you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I have just a general question about what kind of traffic are you seeing now from different countries? Where's the most interest coming from? What are the top 3 to 5 countries of interest for you?
So within our firm, I would say now, today, the top 3 are Latin American companies coming from Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, the US as well. It's something that we are working a lot with. And I would say the Netherlands. Netherlands has become a key market for us, especially related to payroll. What we are seeing with them is many of the employees of those companies are relocating to Spain, and they are interested in how to be compliant with labor, with tax. These employees are very interested with the decouple regime. Some of them are executives and want also to develop investment within Spain. So Netherlands definitely has become a key market for us, I would say, during the last 2 to 3 months.
Right. What is the government's position on this? How do you see the Spanish government attracting or changing policy and adapting? What's the local interest, the regional interest in attracting companies to Spain? How is that these days?
So the Spanish government, I see that they are step by step going to be more business minded. Okay, as I've said, just a couple of years ago, we saw some laws approved which were very interesting for international companies and for innovative companies with the startup law, for example. We got approved the digital nomad. We are getting approved lots of reforms from a tax perspective, which can be very, very interesting for companies. And then at a regional level, it depends on, as I've said before, on the city that you are going to establish yourself. It's not the same, for example, Barcelona, which has some institutions, public institutions, which are working towards facilitating things for international investment. And then, for example, other parts of Spain, which maybe they are not that much interested with international investment and they are not developing that much and they don't have these institutions or maybe these different tools for a company to thrive into the ecosystem. For example, in Barcelona we have, Madrid is doing a lot also in that sense, Valencia, Malaga is working also a lot on this. So it really depends at the regional level.
Where are people typically landing? Which cities, which regions? And do you have coverage across the country?
We do have coverage across the country. The main offices, as I've said, are Madrid and Barcelona, but we work with companies from Andalusia, Canary Islands, Basque countries, so many parts of Spain. And depending which city to choose, depends on the industry, okay? I would say, for example, if you are into renewable energy, Valencia, it's a good place to look up. If you're into tech, for example, Barcelona or Madrid are very good options. If you are into manufacturing, I would choose also Catalonia, maybe Basque Country. It's somewhere traditionally very important in that industry. Depends on the industry. It's always different.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Great. some great questions from Doug, and thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? No?
One of the attendees here is from Argentina. You mentioned Argentina. And so that's Erwin Pattinger. Thank you for joining, and thank you for renewing your membership as well in Global Chamber. They are very, I believe, the #1 healthcare system within Argentina. So thank you, Erwin, for your leadership in the country and your interest in Spain. Sam
thank you very much.
Santiago, I think, also has a lot of interest in Spain. He is based in, actually, I think you're based, Sam, in both Mexico and the US. And I don't know whether you have some connection to Spain as well, but undoubtedly you're such a global guy. Thank you for joining today.
My pleasure, Doug. Let me just say very quickly, for those who are on the call, if you have ever doubted the impact of having these global connections through the Global Chamber, I have to say that Yuka, first of all, and then through Yuka, I had the opportunity to meet Maricel. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing. These two ladies have bent over backwards to make me feel welcome whenever I go to Barcelona. I have the privilege of talking to Yuka and make plans and work on some very interesting projects every other day, I think. And Maricel and I are planning their visit actually to Mexico, along with Gabriel Uribe, the executive director in Mexico City, in November. So, get the word out. The Global Chamber is the place to be. You make great connections here.
And definitely we welcome you. We welcome anybody to Spain and to Barcelona. And Mary, the company is based in Madrid, but she is in Barcelona as well. So whenever you come to Spain, please let us know, and we can arrange in-person meetings, or maybe we can do a networking events, right? So please let us know. And the country as Spain is very nice place to live. I am the living proof. I've been here for about 26 years now. I'm Japanese, but I'm not leaving Spain. Very nice country to live. And business-wise, as Mei said, the government is shifting toward business a lot. So they're facilitating landing of foreign companies, businesses, especially investment. So please talk to us. We welcome you. And we have specialists like Mei.
One question for you, Yuka, being from the Japanese culture, but being in Spain. So is it kiss, bow, or shake hands in Spain? And the reason why I ask that is Terry Morrison is on the call. She's the author of Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands, one of the iconic global business books of all time. It's now in its 2nd edition. I don't know if, Terry, you can say hi, but thank you for joining today. And what an amazing book. I'm not sure in Spain, it is more of a kiss country, isn't it, versus shake hands?
Yeah, it's a Latin company, right? Country, right? Terry?
Yes, I'm sorry. I've just joined and I apologize. Lo siento mucho. But this is so interesting to me because I studied in Valencia many years ago. And I love Spain, and we have dear friends in Alicante. So yes, I would love to hear your opinions on the interactions culturally amongst the Japanese and the diverse actually populations within Spain, but also what do you think of investing in real estate in the Costa del Sol?
So actually something I would say very popular, as you were mentioning, you can find people from different places of the world investing there. I have clients investing in properties over there. I would recommend it to you if the opportunity is good. it's a good place to start with.
Thank you. Thank you.
But Terry, how is the book out?
Yes, and I'm going to share video, but I just ran in, so I'm all at 6s and 7s. So you may even see my dog behind me. So I apologize, but I thought, oh, if I can make this meeting, this would be great. The book is doing really well, and also because Lauren Swartz, the CEO of the World Affairs Council in Philadelphia, wrote the new preface, it's getting even more buzz through their connections. And our audiobook launched on Labor Day. And it's like number 7 in business practices and so forth on Amazon. So I'm very honored to be able to say that, there's a lot of interest in intercultural negotiations and communications worldwide. And the book, reflects that sort of diplomatic viewpoint on doing business globally.
It sure does. Such a valuable resource. Thank you. Have you met Yuka before?
No.
So Yuka's a world-renowned expert on localization and globalization, and so you guys definitely should be connected. And she herself, of course, is multicultural as well. So
I'll reach out on LinkedIn. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to be honored.
It's my pleasure, my honor.
Thanks, Terry, for joining. Yuka, the reason why that book particularly was important to me is that it came out right when I was moving to Japan. And so it was a very important, as I was going country to country in Asia, it was an important resource for me. And it turns out Terry is in the Philadelphia area, which is close to DuPont, where I was working. And I think DuPont was one of your first companies that bought the book for executives like me. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you were. You were one of my first 2 clients who actually bought a license to the digital product, and then the book came out. But DuPont was a rock for interest globally.
Yeah, the international group was at Chestnut Run, and I had an office right nearby there. And then I moved to Japan for a few years, and a very important book, an important resource for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for your constant support. You're wonderful.
Sorry to interrupt, Yuka.
No. Thank you very much. And is there any other questions? Because this is a great chance to talk to Mary Cherry. No?
If not, I'm gonna let my email on the chat. So if anyone then comes with a question or something comes to your mind, please feel free to reach out and to connect. I'll be happy to do so.
And please tell us your plan of traveling. Where are you going now?
So pretty exciting. We are going in 2 weeks, actually to Ottawa in Canada. We'll be there for some days, and then in November, as Sam has mentioned, we're going to Mexico. We are going to Miami as well, and we are going to Bogota in Colombia. We are very excited for it because it has been a year in which we've been traveling a lot, because I feel which is important to do so, to understand your client and their needs, to also understand their market and where they are coming from. And of course, always it's good to make connections into other countries, because you never know when your client is going to need any sort of support locally in their parent company, for example, or in a company within their group. We've been this year to London, we went to Singapore, we went to Germany, and now we are going to finish the year with this little tour that we'll have in 2 weeks and in November.
Great. So if you're in the region, please reach out. Otherwise, I would ask Doug and Cesar to connect Mary Cherry with the people where she's going. And it's wonderful to have Global Chamber people around the world, that we can see and we can talk to each other as if we knew from since a long time ago, so
Exactly. It's a great opportunity, I think, to make connections and to meet very interesting people. As Sam has mentioned, we are trying to organize an event in Mexico City while we are there, and he and Gabriel, they are supporting very much on that. And I think it's always a good opportunity when you visit another city to connect with the Global Chamber members. So as Yuka has mentioned as well, if you ever come to Barcelona or Madrid, let me know. I'll be very happy to host you.
great. Thank you very much. If there's any other questions or comments, final thought, Doug?
I appreciate this information. The world is a big place, and there's a lot of different places to land your business and land yourself personally. This general topic of where you live and how it relates to global business is one that I think is really important. It's why I started the global culture concept that we do on every first Thursday, I believe, of the month. We talk about what global culture is. And I recently was impacted because I've personally lived in a lot of different places. And I wonder, why does that impact how people interact with you? And it does, right? Where you live and how people in the local area where you are, how warm they are with you, or whether they consider you to be an insider or someone that can be close to, because historically the human race, it's where you live is everything. Where, your little town in the Middle Ages, that's the only thing that really mattered. And now we have technology that allows us to know people all over the world. And so why does where we live really matter, unless strategically it's important for your business, unless it's strategically important for yourself? And in fact, that is why you should live in different places, because you like living there, because you like the people, because you like the food or the religion, or you have family there. Those are the things that drive where you should live, not necessarily, I'm going to strategically live there because my business it's really important. In the case in here with Spain, it's such a strategically important location for the EU. And Yuka, I'm curious, when you think about Spain and how you position Spain and how others position Spain for the EU, how is it? It's a rising star, right? Like Portugal in many ways, from a personal standpoint. The cost of living is good. It's located logistically well enough that you can hit certainly Western Europe and a good part of Europe and the Middle East and Africa. I mean, when you think about these are different issues probably than you thought about when you relocated to Spain, but how are businesses looking at Spain these days from your perspective?
From my perspective, right at this moment, Spain is positioning really well because, as you said, geographically, Spain is in the center between Europe and the Americas and Africa. Asia is a little far, but we are touching as well. Also, I guess because Spain was an empire before, they had territories overseas, and they know how to operate globally. And they have a history of cohabiting with three major religions, before hundreds of years ago, they cohabited. So they are really good at doing business, living with other people from all over the world. This is historically proved, and I think they are positioning really well because right at this moment, lots of countries that are dealing with the goods, like agriculture good, manufactured good, a little bit scared because logistics are a little bit mixed up, let's say in that way, right? But the main business for Spain is tourism. So we lost a little bit with this global new order, let's say, mix up. But I think economically, Spain has not been touched so much, and they're positioning really well. This is what I think. And they are driving for innovation. Each cities and regions are driving for innovation, economic development. So and they are really proactive to attract foreign businesses. So Spain is a very good place to start business, international business coming from foreign countries.
Well, thank you for all you do to encourage the right decisions by businesses. And Maricel, thank you so much for your support and collaboration with Global Chamber and the important work that you do to set up folks in Spain successfully.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So with this, we wrap up. Do you have any final thought, Mary J?
Sorry?
Final thought, final words?
Yes, no, I think you have said everything which is important. Spain really is a good country to consider within your expansion plans. There are lots of strategies, lots of benefits, lots of things that you can take advantage of. And really, it is important, of course, to do the planning and get informed, that's with everything, but the opportunity is there. And if you are trying to expand into Europe, really do consider Spain, because compared to other Western European economies, I think it's a very good option from different perspectives.
Great. So if anybody wants to reach out to Mary J, the contact information is in the chat, I guess. And you can reach out to other people in the Global Chamber to get her information. Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you everybody for participating, and thank you, Doug, for coming in for very early in the morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We actually have the next, I think there's 4 back-to-back Globinars, and the next one is, and I didn't realize this, but I thought it was just the quarterly advisory board meeting for Global Chamber Washington, but it's actually a board meeting that includes a conversation about global insights on emerging markets. And so I didn't realize it, but it actually has a couple really interesting speakers above and beyond even the advisory board for Baltimore, Washington, talking about emerging markets. And so I see Chris Bennett here. Chris, I don't know whether this is on the same Zoom link or not, but do you know? Because you're part of the chapter. And I see your face, so I thought maybe you were live.
Hi, Doug. Actually, I stepped away for a minute, but my understanding it is the quarterly meeting, but I don't recollect the agenda. So
okay.
I'm about to pivot and jump into it now.
Okay. And so I think for all of us, it may be on a different Zoom. It may be on a different Zoom link, but it looks really fascinating. Globinar Beyond Borders. And I know one of the speakers is, oh no, this is something else. Sorry. But one of the speakers is Francisco from Factum Global. And then there was someone who's from one of the embassies. So it's really fascinating. So take a look at that on the agenda and consider attending, because it looks like there's going to be both an Asia and a global aspect to that one.
Right.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care,
Thank you,
everyone.
for
Take care.
joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.